How to do a wraparound mortgage. You know, this is one of the more misunderstood strategies in investing in real estate, but once you get a grasp of it, it's actually really not that difficult. So if you got that deal, you know, the one that you can't get done, or that one you're thinking about that might have got away had you only known about a wraparound mortgage and how it worked, you could have saved it. If that fits your situation, then this video is for you. Today, I'm going to define what a wraparound mortgage is, how it works, and under what scenarios you would actually want to use it, because there are pros and cons and you need to be aware. So when a buyer can't qualify for a traditional mortgage, but they really want to buy the property and the seller really wants to sell it, there may be another option for the two to actually close the deal. A wraparound mortgage could be the solution, but there are risks involved. So you want to be aware of the working parts, the variables, and all the nuances that are involved, because it's important to know what you're getting into before you buy or sell a home this way. So what is it? Well, a wraparound mortgage is a mortgage that wraps around an existing mortgage, and it functions as a type of secondary financing. So how does it work? Well, in a traditional mortgage, when a property is sold, that mortgage gets paid off when title transfers. But with a wraparound mortgage, that existing mortgage, that initial mortgage, that will stay with the property. The seller will keep that in place, and then they will wrap around an additional mortgage around it to complete the sale. So it looks like this. Let's say we have a house. We'll say this house is valued at $200,000. And on the house, there is already a mortgage of $100,000. And we'll say that there's $1,000 a month payment. And the seller's gonna sell this house to the buyer, and the buyer can't get qualified for that traditional mortgage. So what the seller's going to do, he's going to leave this mortgage in place, and then he's going to wrap around a second mortgage, because there's a gap here between this $100,000 and the $200,000. This is the equity. So the seller is going to sell this equity via seller financing, and that might be, say, at $75,000. And this one might be down here, say, at 5% interest. This one might be at 6% interest. And now the buyer has two options, and it depends on what the buyer and the seller agree on, is that the buyer can send the seller one payment for this payment up here plus this payment up here. Let's say this one is, I don't know, $500 a month. So we can send the seller $1,500, right? And then the seller will be responsible for making this payment. Or the buyer could send two payments, one directly to the seller's mortgage company, and the second one to the seller for the seller financing. And if you'd like to see in greater detail how the wraparound mortgage works, both when buying a property and selling a property, I went into greater detail with far better images than this, and I put a link to that video down in the description below. Now, if that has even remotely cleared it up for you a little bit, let me know by clicking the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I talk about creative financing strategies like this each and every week, and you're not going to want to miss it. So why would a seller want to do a deal like this? Well, first of all, they're getting profit. They've carried back financing and they're getting a nice interest rate on it. The second thing is, maybe the seller's having trouble. Maybe the problem isn't with the buyer at all, but the seller's having trouble selling the property, and this could be the perfect solution then. Ultimately, what the wraparound mortgage does is it opens the pool of buyers for the property. So there are some risks. While the wraparound mortgage can benefit both parties, there are some things that you need to know and you need to be concerned with. For the buyer, the seller could stop making their payments on their existing mortgage and actually lose the home to foreclosure. And buyers can help reduce this risk by making their payments directly to the original lender. Now for sellers, most lenders would require, when this property changes title, for this to be paid in full. This would prevent the wraparound mortgage from ever happening. So before completing this type of transaction, the seller needs to review their original loan documents to make sure that this is even possible. Once they are sure that they can follow through, the seller now bears the full responsibility of the mortgage. Even if the buyer stops making the payments, the seller is going to be responsible for making those payments. So there's a number of different creative financing ideas that you can use. And what I've done for my private clients is I've put together a cheat sheet. It's 21 creative financing terms, and I gave them 10 deal templates that they could easily follow when they encounter a situation like this to kind of see what fits. And if you'd like a copy of that, I'm more than happy to give you a copy for free. I put a link down below. You can just go to epicbreakthrough.com. And that's a wraparound mortgage. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.